Hello, this is Julia Bushkova. Today we're going to be talking about the bow and the bow hand. It's a huge topic. I'll try to break it in small parts. And we'll start with the fact that most of us hold the bow too much. And that's what I encounter the most in my students. The bow has properties of its own. And as we all know, there is a balance point in a bow, and it's different in different bows. So on this bow it's about here. On the other bow it will be, if it's a heavier bow, it can be much more away from the frog. So here's the balance point of the bow. What I'd like to do with people who I know have too much grip, the word I don't like to use the word anything that resembles clutching, and grip is one of those words. So I would say maybe bow hold or approach of the bow to the bow, approaching the bow. One of the things that I notice, whether a person holds the bow like this, or in any way displaying tension, and there are myriads of ways to do it. One thing is in common. People don't trust that the bow can be actually held with this principle. So the weight of the bow is held by the pinky, which everybody knows. When we have the bow on the violin, the bow is supported by the string. So if I put my bow here, when most of the weight is behind me on D string, I'm easily able to take all the fingers off, which indicates that actually I don't hold the bow. I don't need to hold the bow there at all. What holds the bow, basically the counter pressure of the thumb, and it counteracts the gravity pulling the bow behind me. I would not do this very simple demonstration exercise, by the way, very freeing exercise for most people, on other strings. Why? Of course, E string, the gravity will pull the bow to the floor. On A string, it kind of does the same thing. And so it's a little bit, it's shakier to do this here. The D or D and G are the best. Number two, another thing to really understand about the bow is that we use the principle of the seesaw. And many people talk about this, and I've seen quite a few exercises here on YouTube. And I find that one thing that I haven't seen so far, and that is the demonstration of the principle on the seesaw truly as a seesaw. Whereas there's a fulcrum, and then there is one guy and the other guy, and they go like this. And each of them leaves the ground. So for the exercise for younger people, and not necessarily younger, just people who perhaps have flaws in here, double jointedness, holding the bow with too much tension in the pinky, or too much tension in the third finger, or too much tension anywhere, I recommend first to get out of the frog and go to that balance point. And here, when the bow is basically weightless on both hands, here you can experience this and that. So depending on which side pushes slightly, that's where the bow will go. And here, how I would demonstrate the seesaw. Push and let it go back to you. So I'm pushing here, and I do not follow with the pinky. So in other words, I'm not doing the strength exercise for the pinky, which requires to straighten it and hold it there. But I rather push and let the bow go, and let the bow return back to the pinky that is in a natural state. And that creates a true seesaw. The seesaw that you put in motion and then let it go. The same thing can be done here. It's of course more for the first finger, I suppose, because I'm on the other side of the balance point, and that's what the first finger is doing here, the index finger. So as you notice, there are no movements of tension involved at all. There is no power movements. Another thing that I commonly do, and I would like to show, is to hold the bow parallel to the floor And then with the relaxed right arm and the hand drooping, go and meet the bow like this, descend on the bow, and then hang on it. That it's a good way to feel the weight of the arm, actually, while holding it with your left hand, for instance. And if you notice, I'm very what I call deep, which resembles, to me at least, the cello hold, where my thumb goes in the right place. So it's more of a cello hold. Now, we don't have to hold, obviously, that deeply on violin. We're a smaller instrument. So what I do, I will just move the bow slightly towards my fingertips a little bit, and that's when it's comfortable for the pinky to come up. And of course, we know what we do with the pinky. Pinky is the main force that holds the bow, weight of the bow. And here we are. How much to hold the bow? I think the best way to find out is to actually approach the bow in a relaxed fashion. And at this point, I'm not going to go into how to position your fingers. That will be another video. They're here already. They're a good position. The wrist is straight, neutral. And then you hold. A bow is virtually weightless at this point. You basically balance it. And then you hold it less. And you hold it slightly less, and slightly less, and slightly less. And finally, it starts slipping out of your hand. And usually, that's what happens. It just hangs on your thumb. It doesn't have anywhere to go. But just in case, again, I want to remind people that this is the exercise bow that I'm using. Or if you're using another one, please do it first over the bed or over the carpet. How much you hold? Well, you hold exactly that much before it starts slipping out of your hand. Almost nothing. Sometimes I use the word skin touch. You hold it that much, just the way your skin touches the bow. And of course, when the bow is on the string, it's supported by the string. And so then you can release your hand here. And you can check all your fingers separately, because none of them really hold the bow. And when you lift the bow off, and of course it's lifted by the fourth finger, the pinky for us, and that's the actual hold of the bow in the air.